to make it as big as possible. Today we stand against an urgent threat, and we succeeded for the values that our nation holds dear. Since the monstrous Dobbs decision, right-wing forces have set their sights on more of America's personal freedoms, including the right to marry the person you love. Our history has always been about expanding freedom until that decision.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to News from the Pew, where we take news from around the interwebs, distill it down to make it slightly less frightening. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and the purveyor of all things Sensus Fidelium, Mr. Steve Cunningham. And I'm glad you're hanging out with us tonight, or whenever you decide to listen or watch this show. A week of news that we're going to get to, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just jump right in. As you saw in that clip, Steve, the codification of not only sodomy, SSM, whatever you want to call it, but really the true ending of any kind of union or republic or anything you want to call it, because this is enshrined into law the ability to go after places of worship and to really push the boundaries of what you would call religious freedom at this point to an end. Not a great day for Catholics, because you had Nancy Pelosi sign it or push it through in the House as her last real big measure as speaker. You had Catholics on, quote unquote, Catholics on the Democratic Party vote for it. And then you're going to have the most Catholic of presidents ever, Joey B. He is going to be signing it. So as you can see, Steve has the hit list of the supposed Catholics who are going to have to answer for this on the 4 final things. Not a great list. Steve.
Yeah, there's Mercer, because there's 74 Catholic Democrats in the House of Representatives, and they all voted to redefine marriage and expose religious organizations to years of lawfare from harassing lawsuits. Mm-hmm. And you brought up earlier, and we talked about before, is you're going to see guys getting arrested. I mean, I would say cops, not cops. My kids screaming, it's making my head messed up. Is priests be arrested, like you talked about? I mean, they're going to come into the parish, demand marriage, and they're going to say no, and they're going to bring the feds in. And congrats.
The heavy-handed government has now been. If you thought it was bad before when they shut down during coronavirus, now they don't have to wait for a pandemic to shut them down.
Yeah. And as I think in North Kakalaki here, I think Tillis, is he on here?
I'm pretty sure Tillis is on his way out, isn't he?
They got voted back in.
No, well, then I don't know what his reason. I know there's a bunch of them who are on their way out.
Yeah, I think he voted for this thing, too. I think he's Catholic.
Yeah. Well, if he voted for that, then he's not Catholic.
When this came through, I mean, we talked about this. The only way secularly you're going to beat this is if you tell DC to go pound sand and you declare independence from DC. You immediately get out of this bill. And it's really, it's a federal bill that's unconstitutional because it's not found in any of the powers of the Constitution from the U.S.
Federal. Congress literally shall make no law in respect to religion.
Yeah, I mean, you could just put that part in. I mean, so they could end up making a suit, I guess, and go through SCOTUS. But as you heard Nancy say, and I mentioned this on a local channel, local show earlier today, this was all about that fear from Dobbs. From when Roe died, you heard all the talking heads. We had it played here. They were bringing up Clarence Thomas because Clarence talked about the contraception, etc., things like that. And others brought up gay marriage, and he brought up gay marriage, but other people brought up the interracial stuff. Mm-hmm. I remember we were going, who the heck is talking about that? And they were bringing up on The View and all these other shows. interracial. No one's talking about this. So they
Well, they
kind
had
of
to. They had to because they were never going to win with just SSM.
no,
They had to attach it to something else.
because then if not, they're going to call those people that vote against it a bunch of racists.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Especially as a guy who's in an interracial marriage, I'm like, do not lump me in with these people. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Here's a couple of the talking heads we were talking just the other day.
To an historic vote in Washington to protect same-sex and interracial marriages.
Speaking of which, what day did this come out?
The marriage?
Yeah,
The actual signing of it?
In case anybody doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception was.
Oh, that's yep, yeah. Of course.
Respect for Marriage Act passed in the House, and now it hits the president's desk. NBC senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake has more. Hey, Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Hoda, good morning. Yeah, it was actually the Supreme Court's decision on abortion rights over the summer that created the sense of urgency, first among Democrats, to protect both same-sex marriages and interracial marriages from the possibility that a future court decision could weaken or take those rights away. So what this bill means is that if your marriage is legal and valid in the state where it was performed, other states now have to recognize it no matter what. The passage was also a major milestone for Speaker Pelosi, one of the last bills that she's going to send to any president as Speaker, capping off a career that has long included a focus on gay rights issues.
Catholic. There you go.
Now is Congressman Richie Torres. He stood by Speaker Pelosi there in the pink tie that he's still wearing as he signed the Respect for Marriage Act in a ceremony earlier today. Torres is the first openly gay black member of Congress, and he is the co-chair of the Congressional LGBTQ+ Equality Caucus. Now, he presided over the debate on the Respect for Marriage Act earlier today. Representative Torres, thank you so much for joining us. First, I have to begin by asking you, what was that moment like for you? What has this day been like for you?
It has been emotionally overwhelming. I mean, there's nothing more gratifying than affirming your own equality in the chamber of the United States Congress. I grew up in public housing, living in fear of coming out of the closet, struggling to come to terms with my sexuality. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would become a member of Congress and have the honor of opening and presiding over the debate for the Respect for Marriage Act. So this is a deeply empowering moment for me as the first Afro-Latino LGBTQ member of Congress.
Boy, he checks off a lot of boxes.
What role, in your view, did the overturning of Roe by the Supreme Court have?
But he's in an interracial marriage, too.
This historic legislation.
Well, we are not legislating in a vacuum. The Respect for Marriage Act comes as a response to the right-wing judicial activism of the Supreme Court. The United States Congress is doing for the right to marriage what we should have done for the right to an abortion. We're enshrining it in federal law in order to protect it from the whims of the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas has said publicly that he is on a mission to overturn cases protecting the right to privacy, the right to marriage, the right to intimacy. And so instead of waiting passively and allowing our rights to be stripped away, we are harnessing the power of federal law to protect those rights.
And I can't wait to smoked in SCOTUS.
Yeah, actually, he's not talking about. He's talking about doing the right thing with what's constitutional, getting rid of the 14th Amendment, basically. And then on top of that, there's just you don't have the power. That just shows it's a bunch of tyrants up there.
Tonight, the House has passed the Respect for Marriage Act, protecting same-sex and interracial marriages. Rachel Scott tonight on the last-minute efforts by some.
It's literally amazing that they think that people are going to go after interracial marriage.
Some Republicans urging lawmakers.
Thomas is in an interracial marriage himself.
I don't know what else he has to do on that. Everyone, they still call him a racist about this.
Sign this.
Tonight, a rare moment of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill. Congress passing landmark legislation to protect same-sex and interracial marriages.
That shows the two-party failure that people think your team versus my team. Guess what? They're not on your team.
Uniparty.
The motion is adopted.
Oh, yay.
39 Republicans in the House and 12 in the Senate joined every Democrat to pass the Respect for Marriage Act, requiring all states to recognize same-sex marriages. Some Republicans called the bill unnecessary, pleading with their party to vote no.
I hope and pray that my colleagues will find the courage to join me.
Don't cry.
I don't know about the crying part.
Don't cry.
This misguided and this dangerous bill.
More than 70% of Americans support same-sex marriage. Momentum for the bill grew after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Justice Clarence Thomas signaled the High Court should reconsider rulings like same-sex marriage. Today's historic vote, personal for members like Tammy Baldwin, the first openly gay senator.
We can put to rest the worries of millions of loving couples who are concerned that someday an activist Supreme Court may take their rights and freedoms away.
President Biden plans to sign this bill in a matter of days. Tonight, he is praising the bipartisan action taken by Congress, and it was an emotional moment here on Capitol Hill. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi seen wiping tears from her eyes. This is one of the last pieces of legislation that will be passed under her leadership.
She could be crying.
All right, Rachel Scott live in D.C.
USCCB, where you at?
Yeah, right. Shh, silence.
I've seen one bishop so far come out and say anything about.
Well, we all know that bishop. We all know exactly which bishop was. But I love how they dance around. Oh, the judicial activism. It wasn't judicial activism when Obergefell itself struck down 32 state constitutions. It came in, and the crazy thing is, the Defense of Marriage Act is still on the federal books.
Mm-hmm.
So in one way, it's like you have the Defense of Marriage Act, which says this can't happen, and now you just lopped on top of it like old Microsoft code, because that's all they do is just spam on the new code on top of the old code. That's what your new programs are. And you're like, that all they did is just span over a new bunch of federal law that has no constitutional basis. I mean, we all understand, listen to this program, none of this stuff we're dealing with at this point is constitutional in any way, shape, or form. But what is it, Steve? It's emotion. What were they focused on? The feelings. Now no one, like the Gestapo is going to bust in at 2 a.m. and like drag these people out. How long has the Obergefell been on the books? None of these couples, these people in sodomitical acts, been dragged out of anything.
It's like the abortion one when they came out with these commercials that they're going to show up to your house, knock on your door, and arrest mama.
Yeah.
They just got the one we played a couple weeks ago. The cops show up, they arrested the doc and arrested the woman who apparently is in very good physical condition days after she's had that incredible. Yeah, excellent. She just got done cooking dinner, walking around the house, was playing Twister, whatever. But
barefoot.
It's all fear. Fear. That was the whole thing. Yeah, fear. We're afraid they're going to do that. And no one doing that. Just like everything else, you're afraid. New York right now is about to go back in the Rona thing because of fear and all that. It's fear that's been running everything for more than 2 years. I mean, you go back to 2001. How many people looked at an Arab after that, knowing that, hey, we're going to take down a plane with a box cutter, but because the media told you that, you were afraid.
Yeah.
Here's the things that's going to happen with this. This is my personal opinion of the following nut jobbery is fully stevecunningham.org.com. Remember back in the day when where did I put it up here? That Joey, Mr. Brandon himself, came out with, where did I put it?
It's here. It's here somewhere.
It's somewhere. Anyways. I think I moved it around. I don't remember. Anyways, remember back in June of 2021. Brandon came out saying that basically you're a domestic terrorist. Mm-hmm. Everyone, if you're not agreeing with them, you're a domestic. If you are this, you are a domestic terrorist. Then you had that one speech that he had a couple months ago when it's red in the background, and he basically said, "If you don't believe what we are," and they was like 35% at the time believe we're standing with them, and they called him out they called what's his face? Ducey called what's her face out the next day.
Oh, KGP or whatever.
Pierre, whatever. So what do you mean? Are you saying that the majority of the United States are, extremists because they don't side with your administration? So you're a domestic terrorist because of that. All that beforehand, you lump it in with January 6th, just like we're talking about later with the Moore situation, Moore County, North Kakalaki. Here, if you don't know, there was a attack at the substation, Moore County, which is east of here by 3 counties east of here, between here and Raleigh. And they went dark, and they're blaming in the article. My wife and I read it to her that day when it happened. It touched January 6th. It touched abortion because one of the ladies they interviewed was a big pro-lifer, and trans because there was a tranny thing going on that
drag show. Yeah.
They clicked anti-masker. All that was check, 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 check. And the first thing they said, domestic terrorists did this. They still right now think domestic terrorists did that. What you're gonna be called that. And on top of that, with social credit score coming down. Have you guys heard of this? I don't know, Rick. Have you seen this one? The 15-minute city.
I've heard something. I've heard rumblings about the 15-minute city. Yeah.
Right now, it's already as he conducted a survey of 5,000 across the capitals: London, Berlin, Paris, Milan, and Madrid in 2019. It's also in Portland, Oregon. So the gist of this bad boy is you're 15 minutes away from everything. Is your city is broken up into districts. Think Hunger Games.
Districts.
Think of that. Yes. You have 15 minutes. Outside that 15-minute radius, you get fined if you go outside that. You can only travel within 15 minutes of the destination. So think about this. If you're a TLM goer, traditional mass person, how many of you guys drive more than 15 minutes?
45 for me.
Don't look like you're going to be wanting to do that in the next not so distant future. On top of this, you won't think. Social credit score goes down. Maybe you don't get to buy that. We talked about this before. Buy bread, buy gas, buy this, pay for electricity. Brazil, they cut off their bank account. Just, the votes that are going on down there. I don't know if you guys aren't paying attention, looking at the right, media sites, you're not going to see that in your local Fox, CNN, whatever. Brazil, they're having these big protests because of voting problems they have down there. Same thing they're having up here. It's everywhere. It's not just us. It's Italy. It's all of Europe. It's South America. It's all that. By the way, they're looking to try to make a South American union, in the words of the European Union. They want a North American union. They're looking to do this whole doggone blasted thing. It's the globalist agenda, part 4.5. By the way, the World Economic Forum is having their next meeting next week. Happy Advent. So maybe you don't like same-sex marriage. Maybe you tweet about it. Maybe Father doesn't, say give a heads up or acknowledge somebody's married. All of a sudden, maybe you can't drive the mass. Maybe you can't get into it. Maybe they put feds in front of the parish door. I don't know. I'm just just hypothetical here. These things are happening at breakneck paces. That is unphenomenal. What's going on? Digital currency, gas, cut off your car, the kill switches, the social credit scores coming. I mean, with all this, and this all wrapped up all together. And yeah, again, what if somebody comes in and says, "Well, I want you to recognize our marriage, bless our marriage." They don't have to tell them to marry them. What if they come in the St. Thomas Aquinas and go, "I want you to bless our marriage"? No. Well, the feds tell me you have to. All of a sudden, what happened in Colorado with the bakers? Did they get sued?
Yep. There's another case in Colorado already back up in front of SCOTUS.
Yeah. So, I mean, photographers sued, bakers sued, all these people sued for weddings, things like that. Don't tell me that can't happen and, bless my marriage, have this marriage. Then now it's federal law. That beforehand, it wasn't. Now it's the feds are involved. Tell me what good comes from that.
Nothing ever good's from bringing the feds involved in any of this. But of course, they're using the fear of, this is just another after effect of the Dow row. You mean the Roe decision in Dobbs being a ripple effect. The first ripple effect was we got ourselves smoked from pillar to post anytime it was brought up at the state level. And now this is the second punch where they're using it to push through and, as of right now, codify major tenets of their agenda that they would have never thought of doing 12 months ago because they didn't think they had to. See, our opponent are the people we're fighting against, those who are dulled due to their indulgence of sin. They may be dulled, but they are active, and they are always thinking one or two steps ahead of us. We are nothing if just reactionary, Steve, to everything. They're like, oh, man, they got rid of Dobbs. He said he might even, Justice Thomas is thinking about maybe touching, so we got to codify, we got to put into law, we got to make sure this, that, and the other. They are boom, 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 active. We don't even know. We don't even know how to fight for it. We don't even know how to fight for abortion at the state level right now.
was it the black Latino gay guy? Or I lost track of all the check marks.
The Afro Latino
I pulled that from his
LGBTMAPI QQ1.
I pulled that from his Twitter feed, and at the end of his line, he said, "Next is abortion."
Yep.
And don't think these guys, the children of darkness, are more zealous than the children of light. These guys are going to try to do everything they can to make your life miserable, and I'm sure they're probably going to do it.
Oh,
and then
who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop them?
And then censorship comes. What if you start getting kicked off platforms because you talk about same-sex marriage? I know there's a guy that's already been that on Twitter. I thought that was free speech place. That'll come down the pipe too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was nobody should have been shocked to see the free speech king ban people, because I mean he already showed it with Alex Jones. He wasn't going to let him back on the platform. Whatever you think about Jones, Jones has never incited violence or hurt anybody, but Elon Musk's personal feelings, and made sure, well, that's just not going to happen. And as soon as you heard that, you should have been like, this is not going to be what you think it is. It's not going to be. And Musk, and there's a lot with Musk that people have to realize, is that Musk understands, and I'm pulling this right from a Tim Cash show I heard, so blah, blah, blah. Before you stole it from him. Yes, I did. So let me say the point. Musk already has the left convinced on the neurochip, right? That's his baby, the Neuralink, the chip. That's his thing. Working with AI, and that's his baseline. Tesla's fine, SpaceX fine, AI and the Neuralink is his baby. Why do you think he's trying to endear himself to Republicans with free speech? He's trying to get on their good side, Steve. So when Neuralink is officially ready to go, he can try to be like, oh yeah, well, when we did free speech and we did all this other stuff, because he's already got conservatives defending everything he does. So at this point, when he introduces it, it will be something that will not get as much pushback as it would before. Now people are like, oh, well, Elon's on our side, so don't worry about it. And just not a good thing.
There was that link I was struggling to find, that Biden's domestic terrorism strategy details unprecedented focus on homegrown threats.
Domestic violent extremism, DVEs, I believe they're called. Yeah,
you are not only the carbon they want to eliminate, you are also the terrorist that they are at war at.
Yep. Yeah,
but I mean, World War III. And someone had a great line. You thought World War III was something else? No. It's here. It's your government versus you.
You best start believing in World War III. You're in it. That's really what it is at this point.
Yes, pick whatever title you want to call yourselves. It's your government versus you. You want to sing "Land of the Free, Home of the Brave"? Just remember what went down today or yesterday,
or this whole week. This whole week with stuff. I mean, just this entire lame duck session has been atrocious for anybody that is a freedom lover, just because of the steps and the precedences that are being set. There's a gun control bill that's being pushed back and forth between the two chambers at this point. Who knows if they'll get it in before the Republicans come in, and who even knows if the Republicans will do anything at that point. You got McCarthy, Captain Bat, he's pasta noodle backbone. Guy's not going to do anything for you, feckless guy. And no matter, even if the Republicans took the Senate, which, oh yeah, by the way, folks, Raphael Warnock beat Herschel Walker, but I'm going to give you a little bit more onto why that happened when we talk about Griner. He didn't even have a chance. They called that thing as soon as the polls closed. They're like, yeah, Warnock won. So there's no chance of having any kind of hope in the Congress. So you can continue to try and buy into it. And of course, I agree with Steve. I think Texas should become a republic and then break up into 5 separate states and make it like a confederation like Switzerland. But at this point, you need to start just creating your own little kingdom, as Mike Church says. Create your kingdom and disassociate yourself as best as possible. Grow as much food as you can. Try to network with your neighbors as much as you can, because this system is getting bigger and bigger and bloated and more bloated. And yes, it will topple eventually. Nothing this big and this bloated lasts forever, but you and I don't know when that's going to happen. Is it going to be because of an economic crash in the next 13 months? It could. I mean, they're spending more money than they have. Housing market's about to crater in January. If you think it's bad now, wait till the beginning of the next year when the Feds hike up more rates, because they need to get to 16% to even try to control inflation, because real inflation is probably 17, 18%. It's not this 9% thing that they're giving you. That's just a dance for them. So wait till they actually increase the rates, and they'll never get to that rate, folks. They just can't. That would just crush everything. But if the farther they move up, the housing market's already in decline. Once that crashes, everything else falls out from underneath it. But you need to get your ducks or chickens or whatever, goats in a row, whether it's power, food. You got to figure stuff out, because you're going to be on your own a lot sooner than you think.
That's when to bring this up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as he said, talk about national divorce between blue states and red states, when in fact you need a divorce between red states and their blue hellholes. And look at his area. I mean, Kentucky, Kansas, Nebraska.
Well, actually, why don't you look at where's do you have New York on here? Or look at
New York's right here.
Look at New York. I mean, New York's pretty red outside of what? The blue cities. It's a very red state. California is the same thing. If you look at the top part of California should not be a part of the rest of it.
They've been trying to break away for a while.
Yeah, Jefferson. Folks, I just have to point this out. There's only one state on this entire map that doesn't have any red in it. That'd be my own home state of Rhode Island. There's not one bit of red in that entire thing.
Hawaii and Massachusetts are right there too.
Yeah.
But I bring that up because that's the thing. If there's one secular way to do any of it, to get out what just happened this week, national divorce. That's it. Yeah. And as Don Livingston said, mentioned that before, you got to break it up and then you got to convert it. Now, I don't know if you're one of those guys. I remember a priest telling me this, saying that they'd love to promote the channel more, but he didn't like that I was pushing for a national divorce, and that the military guys might not be appreciative of that. I'm going, where are you guys at now? Are you going to defend? Or you swore an oath to defend the Constitution. First off, that Constitution, which your government apparently doesn't obey it for squat. Never has. Or hasn't in recent years for a long, long, long time. And probably stops since about 1789. Oh, wait, 1998. John,
you could also ask those same soldiers that wouldn't like it. So what are you going to do when you're ordered to, round up people that aren't taking a certain thing or not complying, or when you're ordered as a National Guard to go into a church and shut it down? Are you going to be happy about that? How are you going to feel on that day? Because you either do it now or you do it later. I mean, look at what's happening in New Zealand. Perfect segue, Stephen. Thank you. Steve. New Zealand. No, I might as well be New Jersey. It could be New Jersey. Court is ordering to take a baby away from the parents because they were looking for a certain type of blood that was not filled with a certain type of aftermarket
the
thing that was in it. And they had parents and they had people lined up to give this baby that blood, and Jacinda Ardern was not having any of it. She was not having one single bit of it. And so they physically removed this child from their parents.
Sounds like they thought that the parents were extremists.
Well, that's the thing you got to ask all these military guys. Are you going to be that? Are you going to be the guy that pull the baby away from a parent since you're so willing to fight for this union? That question needs to be asked. It needs to. Because it's coming. It's going to come to this point.
By the way, here's a feel-good story on that same topic. Anti-vaxxer nurse who injected up to 8,600 elderly patients with salt water instead of the Rona jab walks free from court in Germany, finally.
Nice. Take that.
The big thing is now they're trying to line them up now to get them all with the real jab. It'd be good to see how many died because of the real thing versus what she was doing. It's always good to see somebody on the inside, thumbing their nose at the system.
It's very Schindler's List.
It's when you guys. What are you supposed to do here? We're supposed to go USA, USA, USA. Today is not one of those days. Are you going to sing Lee Greenwood? I'm proud to be an American.
Please don't. That's the most cringe song ever.
I like playing it every time something like this happens, which is quite often. And I want to say, how proud are you? How proud are you of this? Now, this is not hating America. Mostly I love my state. I don't care about Washington. Sorry if you're in Washington or Oregon, you got your own problems. You need to work on your own state. But this is, my country is here, not the continent. We got to get that. It's that mindset. We got to get that mindset out, because if we're just one blob, all right, fine. Let that Defense Act come through, and just never complain about when when the Gestapo comes and starts hauling away the clerics because they're not going to obey or not going to recognize SSM.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a Texan, I identify as a Texan, not as I'm a Texan who's unfortunately associated with these United States at this point. And it's really tough to watch people not care, Steve. They got into the election. Now they're back into football, and they're back into all these other things. While all this stuff is just being played behind the scenes and going on right in front of them. And yes, they are, if it's not the specific virus of unknown origin, then it will be climate. That will be the next harbinger of your future lockdowns,
which was the whole point of that thing. That was the whole reason that even went down.
It was a nice test run. It was a perfect test run.
They said 2020 was an experiment run, and that was the link right here. Climate lockdowns coming. You will be tracked in your suburb and happy about it. That goes with that 15-minute city thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's what they want. They need everybody there. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely, pull up the Polestar article. We'll push that into it. If you don't think, folks, that they're going to do this kind of stuff, there's an article out from Zero Hedge that Polestar, Mercedes, another reason why they love electric vehicles is they can control, like a video game almost, your horsepower, your speed. And people are okay with this. Polestar is going to charge you $17.50 per horsepower. It's about $1,100 for a boost package as microtransactions. If you play video games or anything like that, you know what microtransactions are. Invades the electric industry. And now how they do this, folks? Over-the-air updates. The thing people were bragging about with Tesla was, I don't have to go in to take my car because, I just press a button and my car updates and then it runs again. Well, guess what? That same way that they can boost your car, they can deboost it, they can shut it off, they can make sure that your range is limited based on your carbon use of electricity for that month. How are you people? Not you people. Obviously, if you're listening, you get it.
What do you mean, you people?
Yeah. What do you mean, you people? How are people, and I understand they are because they're blind, they're fat, gluttonous, lazy, which I am most of those as well. They just don't care. They're like, whatever, man. If my food and everything's within 15 minutes, I'm okay. And that's the problem. And this is the huge problem. Most people, as we are all the frogs in the boiling water, most people, if it goes slowly and they can have some semblance of Netflix, Domino's, and they can drive a little bit, they'll be fine. They honestly won't care. And that's the thing that really scares me, Steve, is that most people at this point see this stuff happening and they're just like, and
this is all about control. It is literally about control. Everything about your movement, what you eat, how you move, what you buy, what you get, who you live with, all that is under control.
Yep.
St. Ambrose and Garnier, there was a great write-up if you look at that, and he talks about how bishops are usually having to fight the tyrants, back in his day, and he had to stand up to emperors and empresses and things like that. And he talked about the religion, the rights of the religion instead of those rights of the state, which at that time, they've been trying this since the beginning, trying to get the state to run the church. And French Revolution finally got it done. And look at what's going on now. I mean, we talk about that Peterson clip. How do you get that in? Just one step at a time. Started with, that book After the Ball. They got the camel nose underneath. Saw TV shows. Everyone started going, it's not that bad. The gay guy's kind of funny. Things like that.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. And you see it now. It's everywhere. You can't throw every commercial is interracial and has the token gay guy. Not token black guy anymore. It's token gay guys. And can't say a thing anymore. You're going to be that hate. You're going to have the hate crime.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And speaking of which, since we set that up, let's bring her up, Brittany Griner. So another big thing this week was the release of 6'8" gargantuan woman and I guess WNBA star Brittany Griner, who was traded for a Russian arms dealer. And what most people are saying is the most notorious WNBA trade that anybody's ever heard of, and the most lopsided trade in U.S. history. And so I don't know if you have the video or if you just have Twitter feeds. Yeah. So
забавило,
this,
хотя не удивило, то, что обменяли Бута все-таки на Грайнер.
In case anybody's wondering, yes, this is from Russia TV. Okay, give me a break. I thought this was much better than what you're going to hear everywhere else.
А не на Уилма. Я, во-первых, поздравляю Бута, поздравляю всю его семью. Мы много лет были на связи с его семьей, насколько было это возможно с ним самим. Как-то, насколько это было возможно, общались. Это, конечно, огромная радость, облегчение для всех нас. Ну, для всех нас, ладно, что это для семьи, я даже не могу себе представить. Но то, что его обменяли не на героя-разведчика.
Не, пиарную.
Ведь он же разведчик. Уиллан, да? Он разведчик. Его приняли, что называется, при передаче информации на флешке. Он там рассказывал, что это он на флешке хотел, вот ему должны были фотографии церквей Сергиева Посада передать на флешке. Фотографии церквей по WhatsApp друг другу передают. Правда же, как мы берем? Смотри, где я был. Для этого флешку не приносит. Вполне себе нормального качества, не хуже, чем на флешке. Он разведчик. Ну, для нас он шпион, для них он разведчик, то есть герой. Он морпех. Он увешан орденами. У него одна проблема, две. Проблема первая. Три. Проблема первая. Он белый. Вторая, он мужчина. Третий, он, судя по всему, все-таки гетеро. Этого сейчас вообще не прощают. Это катастрофа.
Не, ну Грайнер здесь бьет его по всем параметрам.
И как может американскому избирателю дали выбор? Герой, пострадавший на службе Отечеству. Он же по службе пострадал. Герой, увешанный орденами, пострадавший за то, что он работал на свою родину, на США. Или чернокожая лесбиянка, наркозависимая, пострадавшая за какой-то вейп с гашишем. Американский избиратель...
очень известная.
Да.
Очень известная. То есть в пиаровском плане...
Американский избиратель выбирает очевидное. И я считаю, что для нас это вторая хорошая новость. Первая хорошая новость, что Бут вернулся, а вторая хорошая новость, что нация, которая до такой степени наплевать на своих героев, что она считает значительно более важным вызволить действительно за дело пострадавшую, пусть она известная, спортсменка, неважно, но она пострадала не за то, что она родине служила, а за то, что она гашиш свой не могла без него там 10 часов обойтись или сколько, да? Вместо того, чтобы вызволить человека, который 2 года уже сидит, на секундочку, и который родине служил, и за это служить, это о многом говорит. Это много говорит о состоянии этого общества, этих спецслужб и всего того, что имеет отношение к противостоянию геополитическому.
Incredible news, Stephen A. I'll start with you. Your reaction?
Relief. Very, very happy for Brittany Griner and her wife Sherelle and their whole family, the WNBA community, the NBA community, anybody associated with the game of basketball knows what Brittany Griner has meant to the game. And as an American citizen, obviously, we're happy to see her home. Obviously, we'd be remiss in neglecting to mention the importance of Paul Whelan ultimately coming home. His brother, I saw his brother David Whelan on CNN this morning, class exemplified, recognizing the importance and the relief that we should all feel the fact that Brittany Griner has been released. Nevertheless, still hoping and praying that his brother ultimately, who's been detained in Russia for the last 4 years, would ultimately get released. But what it comes down to is that she's home. Pressure was brought to bear. The United States obviously had been working behind the scenes for quite a long time. The Biden administration is to be applauded in all of this because they put forth their due diligence. And it's important to recognize the fact that while we bring up Brittany Griner, we also bring up Paul Whelan from this perspective. The Biden administration said that they worked diligently and they pushed to try to get him released as well.
No, they didn't.
And Russia was steadfast in their position that the only person that they were going to release at this particular moment in time was Brittany Griner. They didn't forget about anybody else. They tried to get other Americans to come home as well. But Russia refused to relent in that regard. So it was either Brittany Griner or nothing. And they made the wise decision of making sure that they got her home. So I'm incredibly happy for her, her family, the whole basketball community at large.
I'm tired of Stephen A.
You know, I haven't haggled for a lot of things in my life, Steve. I'm not great at it. But usually when the first offer is, You get this or you get nothing. Common sense is you go, cool, bye. And you just walk away from the table. You never take the first one. And the fact that they're trying to say, well, it's either Brittany or nothing. You know who I will invoke, Steve? Honestly, if they give you a bad choice, if they give you a bad deal, and I wrote Art of the Deal, you walk. You don't take a bad deal from terrorists because now you're in their pocket. And you don't want to be in Putin's pocket because it's a bad place to be. By the way, if we're going to get on Biden for Wheeling, he's been there since 2018. Trump could have done something about it too.
Yep.
Trump could have got him out too. So before we'll bash both equally. Trump left him to rot as well. Maybe Trump was trying to do a better deal. Maybe they said the same thing to him. And he was like, no, I'm not doing that. But here's my thing while Steve's looking it up. And I stole this from Royce White because I don't care. This is a payoff to the city of Atlanta. Because I don't know if you know, but the city of the ATL is the Black American LGBT MAP headquarters. And especially Black single women who identify with whatever marker that is. And getting Brittany out of jail for whatever cost it was a payback for them coming out en masse in a runoff to get Warnock elected. That's all this is. Because she's been in jail for 9 months. She's been in jail. Why now? Right? That's the question I have to ask. Why did they have to do it now? She's been there for 9 months. Why did they have to do it now? Because they had to pay back that community for getting Warnock back in office. Because they came out in mass. The ATL is the epicenter of the Black LGBT MAP movement. And that's what you're seeing. You saw John, Corrine, Lesbian, Pierre come out and say that she represents the best of us. Brittany Griner hates you. She hates me. She hates everything about this country. And the fact that she gets paid to play a sport when the WNBA loses between $10 and $12 million per year, what she should be doing is actually paying the WNBA for the privilege of actually playing basketball. So that's before we get into that argument as well. But the whole point here, Steve, is why did it have to be now? Because that community needed some kind of peace offering for helping getting their guy back into office. And this woman is detestable. Trump could have gotten the Marine out back when he was in office. And the Russians, as you saw in that clip, are spiking every political football they can on us, deservedly so, because they won that one. They won that trade.
Here's Tucker.
Russian authorities claimed Whelan had accepted a flash drive loaded with classified information from an intel agent in Russia. He was put on trial and he was sentenced to 16 years in prison for espionage. From the very beginning, Whelan claimed he was set up. He said he was in Moscow on vacation. At the wedding, he wasn't spying on Russia. Now, we tend to believe him, though honestly, we can't know for sure. How could we? But either way, whether he was set up or actually spying on Russia, Paul Whelan's case would be a priority for any American government. Here you have a man who has actively served the United States in the Marine Corps, then possibly as an intel asset in a hostile foreign country. That man is languishing in a Russian prison cell for the rest of his useful life. So not surprisingly, American authorities in Washington promised to do everything possible to bring this man home. But it turns out they didn't mean a word of it. Today, the Biden administration announced it had secured the release of an American imprisoned in Russia, but it was not Paul Whelan. It was a female basketball player called Brittany Griner, who was arrested several months ago for breaking Russian drug laws. In exchange for Griner, the administration handed over an arms dealer called Victor Bout. Now, Bout is an indisputably serious criminal. He sold weapons to terror groups that killed Americans. We're not overstating that. Here's a summary.
Victor Bout, in my eyes, is one of the most dangerous men on the face of the earth.
On the face of the earth.
Without a doubt.
Mike Braun, the former chief of operations for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, told us Bout first exploded on the scene in war-torn West Africa in the late 1980s.
Being held south of Moscow. Listen to him.
I would say that if a message could go to President Biden that, this is a precarious situation that needs to be resolved quickly. And I would hope that he and his administration would do everything they could to get me home, regardless of the price they might have to pay at this point. I have to say I'm greatly disappointed that more has not been done to secure my release, especially as the 4-year anniversary of my arrest is coming up. I was arrested for a crime that never occurred. I'm happy that Brittany is going home today and that Trevor went home when he did. But I don't understand why I'm still sitting here. My bags are packed. I'm ready to go home. I just need an airplane to come and get me.
Because he's leaving.
I don't understand why I'm still sitting here, he said. You can imagine how he feels. So the former Marine, who's been there for 4 years already, gets left behind in Russia, while the celebrity athlete gets busted with hash oil, is championed by her celebrity media friends like Gayle King, and is home in just months. I mean, that's what happened. And it seems like a metaphor for how America under Joe Biden is working at this point. But no, says Joe Biden, we had no choice but to take Brittany Griner over Paul Whelan. Putin demanded that. Watch Biden.
We never forgot about Brittany. We've not forgotten about Paul Whelan, who's been unjustly detained in Russia for years. This was not a choice of which American to bring home.
This was not a choice of which American to bring home. Really? Oh, but it clearly was a choice. And we know it was a choice because the first account.
This is what I brought this up because what you were saying from Stephen A. Smith.
Accounts of the prisoner swap with Russia said it was a choice. Earlier today, Andrea Mitchell of NBC, this is someone who's been in Washington covering news for more than 50 years, someone who is deeply supportive of the Joe Biden administration, contributed to a story that contained this line, quote, "The Kremlin gave the White House the choice of either Griner or Whelan, or none." So Mitchell's piece attributed this fact to a, quote, senior U.S. official. It was not a guess, it was sourced. And then, as with the early reporting on Paul Pelosi last month, that account was scrubbed and sanitized. And the new version of the NBC story assures us that, quote, "The Kremlin ultimately gave the White House the choice of either Griner or no one."
Shocker.
Yeah, right. What an amazing turn of events that all of a sudden it was Griner or nobody. Okay, sure. Yep. She was chosen because she serves the political end.
And speaking of, when we go back from the beginning, kind of tied up in the second one, and this think locally, act locally.
The investigation into these power outages in North Carolina County that is believed to have been caused by an intentional and targeted attack. Now, 45,000 customers are in the dark as of Saturday night after the substations were vandalized and shot at, prompting a curfew and emergency declaration. There is no suspects or motive that has been announced, and it is now turned into a criminal investigation, with Moore County Sheriff's Office having absolutely no idea why Moore County was even targeted. And as of Monday afternoon, those homes and businesses still remain without power, according to Duke Energy spokesperson Jeff Brooks, and it will still take a few days for them to switch back on.
This outage will continue until we get those repairs completed. And so we will gradually see more recovery, but we could still see this extend Wednesday into Thursday, somewhere in that time frame.
And the sheriff would not say whether the criminal activity was domestic terrorism, but noted that no group is stepping up and claiming responsibility or acknowledging that they did it. And it also really underscores the fragility of the US power grid, that people could be able to come in and vandalize or shoot at it so easily.
Now, we knew about this back from 2014 in San Jose. They did it back then. San Diego, not San Jose, in San Diego. People have been yelling about this for years.
And that's why they retire everything from the beginning. The hate crime. They're looking at domestic terrorists. And as she said, we don't know, no group stepping up. That's because that group is investigating. So,
and that group is a certain bunch of khaki gentlemen.
FBI.
That's
unrelated stories.
Right.
Since September, we've had attacks on at least 5 power stations in Washington and Oregon, multiple stations taken out of North Kakalaki, and now 4 in Florida. Orange Blossom, Zephyr Hills, Clearwater, Bay Ridge, Orlando. There's where Orlando is. 2 instances of Bay Ridge. That's just showing you where Orlando is. By the way, Port St. Lucie's down this way. Anyway, so they're saying that this happened in Moore County, North Carolina, was just some random attack, which happened when a tranny thing was going on down the street from a Catholic church, by the way. That's Sunday. Was it Sunday or Saturday? Saturday, because they were talking about watching the ACC championship game, and the lights went out during the game for them. And shocking enough, there's another one in Myrtle Beach, and no power grid got hit, but this one got hit, and it took out the whole county, and it made global news. Moore County, North Carolina. No one that's watching has a clue where Moore County, North Carolina. It just give you an idea. It's just east of Pinehurst. It's where there's I forget what the name. My wife knows the area. Then there's one of the bigger cities there. Southern Pines is there. So that's kind of a wealthy area. My brother-in-law, his house got hit, but not his in-laws, because they're in a ritzy area. They didn't have it. Funny how that this mastermind plan from MAGA extremists, their words, was able to knock down the generator with a few bullets and not take out, knew that the backup generators at all the essential places like hospitals, etc., life support would work properly. So it's just a hoi polloi that got hit. All the small businesses, wait, how'd that lie? There was a curfew right off the bat. Stop me when this sounds familiar. Lockdown, curfew, small businesses attacked. Big businesses were fine. The small business got hit with a big price tag, because like small mom and pop restaurants, there was a guy I saw an article or an interview with. He spent he lost $5,000 worth, or had to buy $5,000 more worth of food for the week, because they're just getting power back now. This is Friday, the 12th of December. This happened on Saturday night, December 3rd. In the year of salvation 2022. So yeah, it's just funny how they said this whole plan was just brilliantly done at night. And they just walked up and just unloaded on the substation and took down the entire grid for this one area, and it only affected their neighbors.
Very specific.
Huh?
Very specific.
Yeah, what sense does that make? That, hey, we're going to hurt our own. And they're blaming it on the tran thing, and guess who they're pumping out in front? The trannies. It is a hate crime against us. It's not inclusive. It's all those keywords, the buzzwords, and all that. They're trying their everything to make, even though the sheriff of Lease has come out saying there's no evidence for that at all. But it was coincidental that it happened right when that thing started. And they talked about having their dumb phones out. They turned the lights on so they could finish their gig, their dancing or whatever during it. So.
Show must go on, Steve. The show must go on.
But yeah, tie that into the beginning. Domestic terrorism. The key words are all there. Same thing in that is the same thing in this with
the copy and paste job, no matter what the occasion is.
Yeah. Get ready. Just buckle up for what's coming.
Yeah. And by the way, you should have already, but look at some kind of backup generation, whether it's propane or at least go have a grill so you can make food when the power's out. Like a Weber grill is like $180, and that could be the key to you making food or not.
Yeah, because there was and get you something in water filtration. There was a story in South Carolina that all the rivers have poisonous stuff in the rivers. Mm-hmm. So better get.
Remember what happened in Jackson, Mississippi? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that was a major metropolitan area. They were out of water for a long time, and Houston a couple weeks ago was under a boil water order. So
and don't think about stuff like this is what happened when you can't flush commodes.
Well, I'm fine. I got a septic tank, so I'm not too worried about it.
for the people, when the power goes down and you can't flush and things like that, guess where all that stuff goes? It's in the streets now, especially long term. What happens with that? If you read that book, Dissolving Illusions, things like that, it brings the correlation. Hygiene and things like that. People are living around feces that exponentially increases risk of diseases. That's when you start getting sick. Is when you cleaned up those stuff. When you got the sanitation in and all that, that's when all this stuff went down. But they credit the injections for all this. But you don't think about that. Those things will back up. Say like city of Charlotte, I thought that was a test run to see how people would react and more for the rest of everyone else when that thing goes to, let's see what happens. Imagine that happened in a big city.
Yeah, on a Friday, right before the weekend. So it's definitely things to keep in mind, folks. Once again, none of this stuff is ever meant to scare you or ever meant to freak you out. Just please keep your eyes open to it. And there's simple things you can do to get ahead of this stuff. Having food, having backup power, understanding your situation on how you're going to get to church. How far is one away from you? Are you and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's really it in that regard. That's the point of the news from the pew, man, is we're here to tell you about the stuff that's going on. And not to scare you, but just to let you know, hey, this stuff's happening. Take it into account. I don't know if you don't have any other stories, Steve, we can jump to Saint of the Week and Cry Room, but it looks like we got one more.
Do we?
No. All right. If not, I was just wondering if you did or did not. My Saint of the Week, and I did not prep Steve on this one because I never do. Is my guy. I'm gonna send him the text message, or I'm gonna send you this website right now. I have a guy. I don't have a guy, but I interviewed a guy in my show, The Barrett Brief, on the Crusade channel, which you can check out. CrusadeChannel.com every day. I interviewed him yesterday. The guy's name is CG Hill. This is the website that he runs. Steve can show everybody. I want you to go check it out. This guy and his family in Idaho make handmade wool pillows with Texas cotton from Texas, and he sources stuff from Montana. He's part of that Catholic land movement. He's back to the land. He's doing stuff to take manufacturing back from China. And I know people are like, oh, the pillows are expensive and stuff like that. These are handmade by a family in a basement for you. He's a good Catholic man. He's a great guy. I love talking to him. He's got great stories. He's a new father. He's my Saint of the Week. And so he's a pretty cool dude as well. So check him out, thewoolshire.com, WOOLSHIRE. And if you want to support him, help him out, keep his business going, because he makes great pillows. Instead of like the cheap pillows from China, you can get a nice wool pillow made here in the USA. It's like My Pillow, except the guy's not nuts. So
wait a minute, all the Catholics are selling My Pillow. We get a I don't. I refuse to get the affiliate link for My Pillow because I don't want to support the Protestant.
You see my eye twitching on that? You see my eye twitching on that? Everybody's pimping that. I mean, it's, if you like it, that's fine. I don't care. I don't have a Cry Room. I actually have a second Saint of the Week, and that's the team from Croatia, World Cup Soccer. Croatia beat Brazil today. Catholic country of Croatia. Go Croatia. Great job, guys. So I don't have a Cry Room. I have two Saints of the Week. It's the Croatian national team in the World Cup, and my guy CJ Hill from thewoolshire.com.
I really wasn't thinking of any of this, but Gerald Salante has a thing, was a Trends Journal magazine, and I'm not going to show you the front cover of it because it's kind of blasphemous, but the title is perfect. The religion, the new religion is politics. Politics is the new religion, and you see a lot of that with people out there that think that voting harder is the sacrament. They want to make voting election day a holy day of obligation for the state religion, all that stuff. Everyone that talks about that, you can't get people to pray or get together for all-night adoration, but you can surely get people to go to the all-night party or to vote. Make sure you send money to Herschel Walker, whatever. You're going to get the money to your favorite politician, Trump, whoever it is. That's where you got flags out in front. You don't see Christ statues out, but you see Trump 2024, or this is Trump country, whatever. That will be everywhere you want. That's politics and new religion. And I'll go with the Cry Room is in
of course,
your boy.
Of course,
boy, who has gone after the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and pretty much shut them down. So yeah,
and all dissenting opinion as well. I mean, obviously the Catholic Church is the biggest deal. I get that, but everything else too. There is no dissent in the Ukraine.
Yeah, I got to ask my one of my priest friends is he's with the Ukrainian right for the Catholics. They're in. I don't know what the group with the Ukraine Orthodox. I guess that's the schism group, but I'm sure that if they're going after those guys, they're going after the St. Basil right as well. Because in Charlotte, there's 2 missions for the Ukrainian rights. One does Ukrainian only, and the other one does. He's the one I go to every so often. Is he does English and he'll throw some Slavic in there at the end too. It's really beautiful liturgy, but
I'd love it.
Your time of the year, man, is shut down. I think it was the Metropolitan out there. He's waging war on God. Hey, who just brought in gay marriage is from sea to shining sea, and as Mike calls it, the amber waves of fuel.
Yeah. It's not a shock. Not a shock, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's going to wrap it up, though, for us tonight here on News from the Pew. Happy 3rd week of Advent coming up for y'all. It's the 2nd week. This week is Joy. So hopefully you are enjoying the Advent season. I know Steve gives me a lot of nonsense. These are just regular lights. They have nothing to do with Christmas. They are just flashing winter lights. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Like, subscribe, and share the News from the Pew. We hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. God bless and Viva Cristo Rey.